just think as a whole, there's not enough emphasis put on the organization's role in the development of the position.
Trophy, the MVP of the week, Sam Darnold, week 3 in the National Football League. Give it up for him.
Yeah! The 2024 NFL season has been absolutely insane, and it's been so insane that I've been getting multiple comments on my YouTube videos asking for a video on Sam Darnold of all quarterbacks. And honestly, I'll be happy to bring this video to you guys. So before we get to the content, I am trying to beat the Flight Mike to 1 million subscribers. He's 4,000 subscribers away from getting there. We're about 57,000 subscribers away from getting there. So make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow now that we get all that out of the way. Work! This past month has been amazing. Everybody has been using the Caleb Williams free square to make some easy money, and this is our final week of free square September. All you need is to guess one player's stats correctly to 3x your money. To sign up for Prize Picks, click on the link in the description down below or go onto the App Store. Use my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 whenever you play a game of $5 or more. And follow me on Instagram at @TheFlightMike to see my picks on a daily basis. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Minnesota Vikings lost their franchise QB over the offseason. Kirk Cousins decided to sign with the Atlanta Falcons, and a lot of people were confused because it's not like the Falcons paid Kirk Cousins a significant amount of money to do so. And I know what you might be thinking,
Mike, he's getting paid $180 million over the next 4 years.
And although that might be true, $40 million isn't a lot of money for a quarterback that just signed a big contract in free agency. As a matter of fact, Kirk Cousins is making as much as Patrick Mahomes. He's tied for 12th place right now, meaning that the Vikings could have easily retained Kirk Cousins, but they chose not to. As a matter of fact, immediately they decided to pivot and sign Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold was signed to a 1-year, $10 million contract, and at this point, we know exactly what this contract is. Going into the season, it was very clear. Sam Darnold was just going to be brought in as a bridge quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. We've seen these types of contracts before. For example, in the same exact summer that the Chicago Bears drafted Mitchell Trubisky, they also signed Mike Glennon to a 3-year, $45 million contract as their bridge quarterback, so they didn't have to rush Mitchell Trubisky to become their starting QB. But Mike Glennon was garbage and he was let go 1 year later. And this isn't the only example of that either. During the 2018 season, the Cleveland Browns decided to sign Tyrod Taylor, just so they wouldn't have to rush Baker Mayfield in as their starting QB. 2 years later, the Chargers did the same exact thing with Tyrod Taylor, so they wouldn't have to rush Justin Herbert in as their starting QB. But unfortunately for Tyrod Taylor, his doctor practically assaulted him and punctured his lung. And the next thing you know, Justin Herbert is starting as the quarterback of the Chargers. Typically, whenever these bridge quarterbacks are brought in, the assumption is that they aren't really going to be playing much. They're there for mentorship reasons, and given Sam Darnold's history, it made a lot of sense to bring him in as the bridge QB. Sam Darnold was once that young, exciting prospect. In the 2018 NFL draft, when he was just 20 years old, the New York Jets decided to trade up and select him with the 3rd overall pick. They had a veteran presence there for him in the form of Josh McCown, and they decided to pair him with a head coaching guru in the form of Adam Gase, who at that point was coming off of a terrible tenure with the Miami Dolphins, and his main claim to fame was being the offensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos during the Peyton Manning era. For some reason, this man was credited for constructing that offense. It's almost as if he had nothing to do with having one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time on your roster with an all-world supporting cast. But I digress. Coming out of the NFL draft, Sam Darnold was the exact same QB that you see now. I mean, just reading his profile, this man had NFL size, arm strength, accuracy, pocket mobility, poise, and the capability of reading the field. His windup is a little bit difficult, but he has the velocity to mitigate the additional release time. While Darnold has the mental toughness and talent to start tomorrow, early sideline seasoning could help him better process coverages in an attempt to eliminate future interceptions. Darnold has the tools to thrive in any system and doesn't have to have perfect protection to succeed. His floor is solid starter, but he has the ceiling to be one of the top tier QBs in the game as he gains more experience. His NFL comparison was Andrew Luck. The biggest issue for him was his release and the fact that he was very capable of turning the football over. That extra seasoning could have gone a long way because his literal first career pass was a pick six. And through a combination of a general manager that just really didn't know what he was doing, whether it was signing Le'Veon Bell to a huge contract or hiring Adam Gase, the Jets gave up on Sam Darnold after 3 seasons in the NFL. It was the start of my career when I was literally slamming my desk begging the New York Jets to select Penei Sewell with the number 2 overall pick as opposed to selecting Zach Wilson in the 2021 NFL draft. Unfortunately, the Jets had a front office makeover, so out went Sam Darnold. Darnold was traded to the Carolina Panthers, and in the very beginning of his career, he looked fairly promising. He was able to pass for a touchdown and rush for a touchdown in his debut game against the Jets. He threw for 304 yards and rushed for 2 touchdowns against the Texans, and then he fractured his scapula, so he missed 6 weeks. By the time he came back, at that point, the Panthers were switching him in and out with Cam Newton. There was no consistency at all whatsoever, and in 2022, even more inconsistency followed. Sam Darnold would start out as the backup for the Panthers behind Baker Mayfield, and the Panthers were a shell of their former selves. They completely dismantled their team. They brought in Baker Mayfield to compete with Sam Darnold, they fired Matt Rule, and they traded Christian McCaffrey. Despite this, when Sam Darnold played, the Panthers went 4-2, but clearly the Panthers were a horrible situation for Sam Darnold once again, and people were starting to write him off. Darnold would back up Brock Purdy for a season with the San Francisco 49ers before finally getting his opportunity as the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. So coming into this season, Vikings fans were literally calling Sam Darnold a bust when they signed him, and now those same Vikings fans are praising Darnold for his career resurrection. Absolutely nobody saw this coming. The Vikings were supposed to suck. They lost their top 10 pick, their franchise QB, before his rookie season could even start. They lost Kirk Cousins, they lost Danielle Hunter, TJ Hawkinson wasn't healthy. This team was supposed to be an easy win for any team that matched up with them. Yahoo Sports even predicted them to have a 3-14 record by the end of the season. But 3 weeks in, and Minnesota has already reached the 3-win mark because Sam Darnold, the MVP candidate, has led them to a dominant, undefeated season so far. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say. They're not an easy victory. Instead, it seems like every game they play is an easy win for them, making them the best team in the NFC so far. Who would have thought?
I think we all have to start, like, this is real. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. I think that's what I'm seeing. They've given me no reason to think anything other than that to this point right now.
Chris Sims put it perfectly. This isn't just a couple of fluke performances from Darnold and the crew. Minnesota is absolutely dominating their opponents, and it's looking completely sustainable. Darnold is playing by far the best football of his NFL career, and it looks like he's finally turning into the player he was supposed to be when he was taken number 3 overall in 2018. Yes, it took 7 years to get to this point, but don't get it twisted. This isn't some late resurgence. He's only 27 years old. He's younger than Joe Burrow. Darnold has plenty of time to build a good career for himself, and this is a remarkable start. Through 3 games as a Minnesota Viking, Darnold has thrown for 657 passing yards and is leading the league with 8 touchdown passes after his huge 4-touchdown performance on Sunday against the Houston Texans, which was a game that Houston was favored to win, by the way. The Texans debuted a brand new offense in 2024 with guys like Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon being traded to Houston, and second-year QB CJ Stroud was getting preseason MVP talk. So it was a genuine surprise when Darnold and the Vikings absolutely manhandled Houston, beating them by a solid 27 points. Well, a surprise to everybody but Darnold and the Vikings, that is. He's legit been one of the best passers in football this year, and his 117.3 passer rating is the second highest amongst quarterbacks who have started all year, only trailing Josh Allen. He's gone out there without 2 of the 3 sons. TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison have been mainly unavailable throughout the start of the year, and he even finished Sunday without the 3rd son, Justin Jefferson, but he's still carving up defenses and making it look easy. Just look at this throw, for example. Kevin O'Connell has been using pre-snap motions to help Darnold read coverages a ton so far, and he uses that to his advantage here. Going through his progressions and finding Jalen Nailor with a perfectly fit ball up the seam in between 3 defenders. This is an elite throw. This is why Darnold was drafted originally, and Kevin O'Connell has been helping him mitigate his weaknesses, because this season has been full of those so far, like this beautiful teardrop to Justin Jefferson near the sideline, and of course, this 97-yard bomb against his former team from last year. He's been absolutely lights out in the red zone this year, having the most completions and touchdowns in the entire NFL within the 20-yard line, and that is a true sign of an elite QB. The craziest thing is this almost didn't happen, and it was never supposed to. In order for Darnold to get this opportunity, Kirk Cousins had to leave the Minnesota Vikings and join the Atlanta Falcons, and the Vikings' top pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, who they traded up to select, needed to be unavailable for Darnold to get this opportunity. Make no mistake about it, JJ McCarthy is the guy in Minnesota, and outside of maybe the first few weeks of the season, Darnold was never even supposed to see the field in a Vikings jersey. Unfortunately, McCarthy would suffer a torn meniscus in his first ever preseason game, putting him out for the entirety of his rookie season, which meant that Darnold had an opportunity to resurrect his career. Honestly, I think that this is the main reason he's been so good. JJ going down turned this season into a let's see what our talent can do season instead of doing everything to build up a young quarterback. Darnold was finally given a chance to shine, being placed in the best situation of his entire career. Some organizations are also run a lot better than others, and Minnesota is no different. Darnold went from playing under Adam Gase in New York and a front office that moved on from him for Zach Wilson to playing for one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the NFL in Kevin O'Connell. He's being given the opportunity to show the world just how good of a quarterback he is. And I said this multiple times, Darnold was never the problem in New York. He was just stuck on the Adam Gase-led New York Jets. His best wide receiver was Robbie Chosen and Jamison Crowder. He was handing the football off to a washed version of Le'Veon Bell, and his head coach had no idea how to scheme to make his life easier. He was given absolutely nobody to protect him either, and nobody to throw the football to. He won only 13 games in 3 years on New York and threw double-digit interceptions in each of those 3 seasons, but I still don't believe it was his fault. Not when he was making plays like this, at least. The Jets had consistently one of the worst offensive lines in football during Darnold's entire tenure there, making Darnold's life a living hell. He went absolutely viral in 2019 for seeing ghosts out there, and that's completely ridiculous. Realistically, and I'm sorry for saying this, Jets fans, but New York was just a horrifically run organization altogether. They haven't had a winning season since 2015, and they haven't won the AFC East since 2002, but that's more of a Tom Brady thing than a Jets thing. Darnold was set up for failure from the moment he arrived in New York.
The truth is, Sam never had a chance. And I know Jets fans, you're going to be hitting me in my replies all about how he had opportunities and he had playmakers. No, he didn't.
I'm not sure that anybody could have survived in that situation. And you guys already know I'm a huge believer in a quarterback situation literally making or breaking his career. I mean, just look at what's happening with Baker Mayfield on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. He went from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers to the LA Rams to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and is now playing the best football of his career, primarily because he has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to throw the football to, and an offensive coordinator that actually knew how to put him in a situation to succeed. As unfortunate as JJ McCarthy's preseason injury was, this was still the best possible thing that could have happened to Sam Darnold. And he may find himself as a franchise quarterback somewhere after his one-year deal with Minnesota runs out. I genuinely can't see a scenario where this changes either, because his offense is only going to get stronger. Jordan Addison's getting healthier by the week, TJ Hawkinson should see the field soon, so these monster numbers that he's putting up by throwing to guys like Jalen Nailor and Johnny Munt should even get better. Darnold has been leading the Vikings to all these dominating wins, which is a remarkable look for him, and should give teams like the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Giants a real incentive to go out and pursue him once the offseason comes around. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Mike, what about Brian Flores' defense? who held CJ Stroud to 7 points. Why is Sam Darnold getting all of the credit? And to that I'd say, you're right. The Vikings defense may be playing great so far, and guys like Jonathan Greenard and Patrick Jones have looked absolutely unstoppable. But if Sam Darnold wasn't playing the level of football that he is now, Minnesota would not be undefeated going into week 4.
Good for you, Sam Darnold. He has been lit up since he's been in the league. He's had everything said about him. And now he is leading his team. They are 3-0, and he's playing some great football.
Despite UCLA being my alma mater, I'm really happy for Sam Darnold. It's really heartwarming to see someone revive their career after becoming a career backup. Guys like Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield have both done this recently. And funny enough, both guys have very similar stories to Darnold. Ironically, Geno and Darnold were both drafted by the Jets and both underperformed in New York before finding a new home later on in their career. Geno has made 2 Pro Bowls since taking over in Seattle, and at this point, Darnold is a surefire lock for a Pro Bowl this year if he keeps this up. Both of them escaped the New York Jets and found places where their talents weren't being held back. The similarities between Darnold and Baker Mayfield are even more uncanny. Both were top 3 picks in the 2018 NFL Draft, got shipped off to the Carolina Panthers where they actually played together, escaped that situation, and solidified themselves as star quarterbacks on up-and-coming NFC teams. Now, like I've said before, Darnold only being signed to a 1-year deal with Minnesota, and considering the fact that this was supposed to be JJ McCarthy's job in the first place, there's almost a 0% chance that Darnold re-signs with Minnesota. However, if he can keep this up, which I'm fully confident that he will, he's going to get a bag from a team that is looking for a franchise QB, just like Baker did in Tampa Bay. The Sam Darnold comeback is such a good story, and there's a good chance that years down the line, when he's made multiple Pro Bowls, we'll all look back on this and say, thank you, Minnesota. You might even bring them to a Super Bowl this year. Who knows? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, because unlike Sam Darnold, there is a 20-year-old quarterback who just quit football for the most bizarre reason ever. We made a whole video on it, and I'll leave it in the end screen to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.